Hello everybody, today I want to talk about AI image generators. AI is everywhere and there are so many different AI tools that allow us more or less the same things: to talk, to chat, to create images, to create videos, all in all and all, right? In this video I want to take the most common ones that I'm aware of and want to compare their usefulness for the industrial design workflow. So I want to look at how realistic is the image output, how coherent is it when I feed my design sketches as input, how good does it create hero shots and context for the product, and all sorts of other different aspects that I will look at in this video and compare the results side by side, all using the same base image and the same base prompt. In the past, AI image generation was really about inspiration only, right? So these images are from almost exactly 3 years ago. I used Midjourney and we get really interesting things, impossible things, new shapes, new compositions, like really things that strike you as original or at least fresh, right? Bring in some new ideas, perspectives, where you would, as a designer, embrace the hallucinations and the unrealistic surfaces to get the spark, to be inspired, not to take it further and actually use this as the design, but just to have fun and play around with it, to feed into your own thoughts and your own creative process, right? But recently, things got much more advanced. AI is like super fast. It started like with a simple sketch, and it really is possible to make realistic render images with different textures and iterate and modify after the initial result is coming out without deviating too much from the original. So you actually keep control over the design and can actually use intent to create something that you have in mind, instead of just let the AI create something and hallucinate something random that might work or might not work. And you really can change the materials, change the perspectives, especially with Vizcom, right? It's specifically targeted for industrial design users. So it also shows in the use cases. You can show details, even apply 3D printing texture or context, animate. It takes you from the idea all the way through the process, and you can create realistic impressions so much faster. I imagine modeling this first and then rendering it in KeyShot would take at least a day. And now it's like an hour or so, or two. And then even if I want to render like the shoe, and if I have the 3D model already without having to do it myself, to create a realistic context shot in KeyShot, to that degree, I don't think I'm at that level, and I'm not sure if it's possible with all these reflections, right? All the detail, the water, the scene. You would have to create such a heavy scene and pay a lot of attention to the lighting to get close to the vibe that this image just gets from the AI, right? So this is, I think, a really strong development, and it will only get stronger. All the different software that you use during your design process, like SolidWorks, KeyShot, Blender, whatever, at the moment they will be working on AI to implement it, integrate it, evolve it, so it becomes inherently integrated into the process of working with these software packages. So I'm curious about the upcoming years. This will be crazy, right? So for the comparison, I selected like several different options, like Night Cafe, never used it before, Gemini, Midjourney, Vizcom, and some others, right? But many of them I only have the free plan, so I'm restricted in how often I can use it. So I'm not sure if it would be actually worth a comparison, but at least I will start like that and we'll see where we get. Right, for the evaluation of the output, I chose 4 criteria. The first one is realism. So how realistic are the images? How coherent are they throughout the process, but also how closely do they resemble the original input sketch? Can I iterate on the work and evolve it further? And how strong is it in presenting the concept in context, or create a hero shot from it, right? And for this example, I chose like an old sketch of mine, which is supposed to be a Mercedes-Benz speaker. Let me just start with showing you the different versions. So this is the Bing image generator, and the cool thing with it, it's free. And you have the choice between 3 different AI image generation models: DALL-E 3, May Image 1, which I'm now aware of, and GPT 4o, right? We will also use ChatGPT separately. Then Gemini, I want to see if LeChat from Mistral also has the capabilities of image generation and to what quality. Then we have Midjourney, Vizcom obviously, and then I found something online, Night Cafe, which also I have some credit, so I will see and try if it's workable or not. Render this Mercedes audio box, audio speaker, realistically with premium materials in dark theme. All right, so that's it for now. I haven't tested any of these prompts beforehand, so I will just go for now with this and see what it will do. Right. So at the same time, I can copy this and go on to the next one. Drop this guy in. Do the same thing. Same here. Gemini. Let's go. The chat. Let's go. Midjourney. I put it as Omni reference. And then I say, let's go. Vizcom. Okay, here I will make it smaller because this feels like it's way too bad quality. Let's go. And the last one is this guy. And create. Okay, so Night Cafe apparently has different models, right? So that's cool. You can access all the different models if you upgrade. So for now we're working with Flux. All right. So this is DALL-E ChatGPT, right? I think really well done in terms of material representation, metal. I didn't have to be specific about the material, and still it was able to stick or create like a material composition that works, and that it's also suitable with Mercedes. It added some artifacts, right? Here, the left and right, it gave it more volume than the sketch initially has. So I have this to be empty space, and also this sharp line, which is really cool. It works well, but it was not in part of the sketch, right? Also here, there was supposed to be a gap, and the chamfer that actually was intended, but it's not shown in the sketch. I removed all the section lines, but that actually works quite well. Then we have Lechet, Mistral. It became clear to me, I was not even sure if they can make images. They can, but apparently they're not focusing on this aspect, which is really clear to me now. I mean, it resembles the sketch, and it's just made a little bit more strange. But yeah, I will not look into this any further. Then we have the Night Cafe thing, Flux 2. So you can choose different models, right? Flux 2 was the one I used because it's the free plan. And the other one was just not working at all. This one's actually also quite close to the original. It added the line here at the top, also the way it flows into the sides. It's not as in the sketch, and also the logos here are a little bit random, but at least it does say Mercedes, which is cool. So all in all, I think this is quite good. It's nothing that we couldn't fix in Photoshop afterwards. Gemini. So here I was only able to generate a single image. This is this one, so I cannot compare the rest of it. And here it was obviously my fault to prompt it in this direction, that it actually uses the context of a Mercedes interior to place this. So it doesn't work as intended, but the material representation is mostly quite nice and realistic. For the rest, yeah. I mean, I couldn't really test it. I know somebody at work, at least he worked with it a little bit, and that was really promising, really realistic also. Material representation, good quality output. And then the Bing image generator, so there also you can choose different models, right? But it was a little bit of a pain to work with, just like Night Cafe. Really annoying interface. A lot of pop-ups and advertising, and it was just insane. Even though I changed the image format, it didn't apply somehow. But what it chose well. I think the material is pretty cool. I mean, it obviously deviated a lot from the original sketch, but that's also actually an interesting concept, going more into the inspiration section of AI use again, right? Similar to Midjourney. It gave me this weird thing. So I used my input sketch as an omni reference. So it sticks more closely to the image, but we got this really strange thing. I tried several other approaches. You will get to see the results later. Overall, Midjourney probably not the best for this kind of assignment. Then Vizcom. Vizcom was the only one to actually understand the gap here that I intended in the sketch, that it is only attached to the bottom arc and not adding volume anywhere. So this is the most close of any of the AI image generations. It missed some of the details here in the feed, but all in all, this is pretty good. I don't know why it's a little bit dirty. but it even shows some of the volume and structure behind the fabric, supposedly, which is really cool detail. Also, you can see the brush of the metal, really strong, I would say. Okay, now I asked it to change the material. Let's see how that works. So change the material with DALL-E, worked really well. I said instead of black plastic, make it white plastic. It stuck to the original appearance and just actually changed the plastic to white. So that works really well. Still kept the wrong things it read from the original sketch, but at least it's coherent with the iteration, right? It sticks to now the appearance mostly following through. Then Night Cafe Flux, that looks a little bit less realistic than the other one, but it at least still works. You recognize it. It did change the material. Yeah. Then we have Midjourney, and here at least the concept is recognizable, even though it's very different, but it looks cool. It has this artistic style, right? It's going far from the concept representation, but again, this is more inspiratorial than the rest, inspirational than the others potentially, because it deviates so much. Then we have Vizcom. Here it made everything white plastic, so I could have been more precise in my phrasing. But apart from that, it was also really coherent overall. And then I asked it for the context shot, right? I also asked it to change the perspective, but I didn't have enough free sources available for most of them, which is why I jumped to the context shot right away. So here for DALL-E, again, coherent, I would say. Put it into context, as I said, premium lounge context, right? I think that comes across well. Nice details, nice blur, good focus, interesting lighting. I think that works overall, even though the volume obviously is wrong here, so I would have to fix that in the images before I go to the context shot, right? Then we have the Flux Night Cafe one. Somehow it changed the material completely. So for this as input, I gave it one of its own renders, right? So it is more realistic to begin with. So it is coherent, but it changed the material completely. And also it goes inwards somehow, it bends inwards. But the context works mostly. There are some strange details like this edge at the table here also. And the couches merge, but the vibe comes across. The lighting is nice, the bloom effect, highlight. I think overall really interesting. Midjourney, artistic style. Didn't get to resolve it. Vizcom, I think pretty well done in terms of coherence. The concept is visible. It's placed in the context that I described. Nice lit in the foreground again. So this really works for the intentions. I mean, you can obviously go further and iterate, right, to make it exactly like you want, make it better, make it stronger. But for now, I think first impression, this works. So now I will just show, let's say, several of the results from the different ones with my rating. So for DALL-E and ChatGPT, really high realism. I think the material representation is one of the strongest. Something about it in the contrast and the lighting makes it really pop compared to some of the others. Coherence, I gave it a 4 because it is coherent within itself, but it did deviate from the original sketch slightly. But again, I only had limited 5 images, I guess, for this. So I couldn't dive into the option to actually improve on the initial mistakes. Overall, I think this is a really strong contender. Then we have Night Cafe, realism a little bit less. I think they still are obviously AI generated compared to these ones. We have some artifacts, but it's still realistic. The material representation, it's coherent. Yeah, I would say as coherent as DALL-E. Iterability, so that was a little bit difficult because of the user interface. I found it to be hard to actually work on the same image further and further. But the hero shot, I like it. So maybe this is a tool that you can use with already existing material, just drop it in and make something once instead of trying to iterate through and evolve the idea further. Then we have Vizcom. Realism, I gave it a 4 to 5 because sometimes it looks a little bit less realistic than DALL-E, for example. But overall, high realism, good, strong coherence, like the strongest, I would say, from all the other ones. But also, sometimes I get completely random concepts for some reason, like a completely different one. I like this one. It's a cool concept. Works well. Maybe more realistic even than the initial sketch that I gave it. But it's just not what I sketched right. Also, this one was supposed to be the top view. Well, it's just a steering wheel. But yeah, very nice idea also about it integrated like some wood artifacts by itself. Also here, the way the feet are framed with metal and there's plastic inside. Really interesting without going too far. So it really gives me ideas, but it stays close to the original intent. Then we have Midjourney, realism. I give it a 2. I mean, you can create realistic images with Midjourney, but not just exactly the image you want. Coherence, I give it a 1 because every image is different. It doesn't stick to a single idea. I mean, these, you look related, right? This is both omnipresence, but that's it. Basically, that's as close as you can get. Here is already very different. This completely different vibe. You cannot iterate through an idea. So it's not for this purpose. This is a purely inspirational tool, I would say. I like it a lot. I use it a lot also to ideate for mood boards, but not for evolving ideas and concepts. Then we have the Bing image generator. There are different models in there, right? I tried some of them. I would give it a 3 for realism. These still look clearly AI generated, even though the materials themselves look quite convincing. But based on the way it shows, it feels like AI, right? These cool but wild geometries, iterability. For me at this stage, 0 or 1. I couldn't do any iterations really. It didn't take the aspect ratio at sometimes, and the context shot I didn't apply for this model. So I cannot say anything about it. I think there's potential. I also think for getting some different style than Midjourney, you could use it because it's free also, right? And play with it. But I think other tools out there are stronger. And now I want to show you some other things. So, I mean, Vizcom obviously was made specifically for industrial design and concept development, right? So, which is why I think it's the strongest at this stage. So I want to show you some of the other ideas that I realized inside Vizcom, right? So this is a skateboard, and I also show the original sketch. Really cool. Also the way it considers the background, the vibe, really nice, super realistic, the detail of use. Then we have this, which is supposed to be an over-ear headphone, but without a band, right? So over-ear pod, maybe you could call it. It turned it into a camera. I didn't specify, and also this product doesn't exist like this, which is probably difficult for it to reference. But in terms of visualization, I think this looks really nice. And for this one, I love that it actually tried to show this use case in a way that I indicated with my sketches, but it made it real, right? Also, the material really works well. I think this is amazing. It's a really nice result. This one too, again, the wear on the material representation, the lighting also, really nice. It was stuck to the sketch, and also this one. Now I really like this concept a lot. That it's already an old one from my Instagram. It's supposed to be a home speaker system, right? Dolby surround sort of design, which also works for the interior. So it's a little bit further to the back. And I think that's also interesting material combination, especially for the interior and home environment, right? It looks premium, but also works at home. Then we have this helmet, super nice, realistic. So these were some of the examples. And now I still want to show you how we can, as industrial designers, even further push the capabilities of these models now, because we can still model in 3D, right? So you can basically just model an object of your liking and apply basic materials, like I did here, right? And choose camera angles that you want. And now based on this, we will make immediately like a realistic render. And now you can even input up to 4 images at once, so it understands the different details. Image 1, and then let's say simple white background. And then it will basically create this one. And then you can say maybe you want to actually have it in this perspective. And this one you can choose inside KeyShot, right? You can exactly do what you want and it will understand. And then the last thing I will say is render this chair in a realistic living room environment, hero shot, cozy. And then I say make the landscape image. So I'm close to my limit, as you can see. All right, so if we compare this image to the KeyShot one, I think especially with fabrics, this looks more realistic, right? We have the seams, we have the fabric being represented realistically. The wood looks better than in my image, even though the color, I'm not sure if I like it, and it could be even better. But overall, I think the impact, and this is like 5 seconds, right? Also here, this looks a little bit too close to what it was. But this one is nice. It also really depends on the input images, right? So it didn't take this perspective, so you have to copy and repeat and iterate several times sometimes. But overall, let's try with this as well. So it's another project of mine where I tried to render a ceiling projector, so which is specifically built to project onto the ceiling in spaces that are not as big for students, for example. Not every student has space to project in their own rooms, right? But you don't always want to go into the living room. So this one can be directed at the ceiling. Everybody has a ceiling, it's usually white, so why not? And I used a similar approach because here the context shot, I feel like didn't really work out that well, right? The individual shots I like. I have the detail, I have the material, all good. But for the context one, I didn't spend too much time on that shows. So with Vizcom, it's just a click away. I think that's working quite all right. I did put this part on the wrong side, also the buttons. And also, obviously, it projects now onto the wrong wall. But still, this is selling the image better if we crop it than this guy. Try to utilize all your strength and all your skills and plug it into the AI to render images fast and quickly and maximize your idea output quality, right? So I hope in this video you learned something new about the latest of AI image generation and how to implement it into your design workflow. If you liked it, subscribe and follow for more. See you around. Thank you.